market has new buzzwords like quiet quitting and quiet firing.
Skilled jobs of the future are not what they used to be. The salad days are over.
Are you sick of legislators telling you to vote for them and then have them work against your interests? Are you sick of working at companies that could fire you for nothing? There is something we can do about the state the world is in. It's just that those in power don't want you to know what that is. So in our first episode, we reviewed why the interest of capital is necessarily against the interest of labor, and vice versa. And in our previous episode, we reviewed why the state is necessarily biased towards capitalists and against workers. In the face of all of that, you might be wondering what can be done about this level of elite capture. If we can't even rely on the state to intervene on our behalf, how can we fight back against capitalists actively making our lives worse? Defining what will have the greatest impact is a matter of tracing the interests of those in power. If we want substantial, lasting, positive change, we need that change enshrined as law. So we start with needing to influence the state. If we influence the state, we have to know what the state prioritizes. Well, the state prioritizes capitalists, as we've seen, and capitalists prioritize profits, also, as we've seen from the first episode. Boom, we have our target. It's profits. It's actually the workplace where the battle for workers' rights, for subsidized healthcare, free childcare, maternity leave, everything will be won. Workers need to disrupt the business practices of the capitalists and make it clear that without concessions, the disruption in profits will continue. Then, if done effectively, the capitalists' interests align with workers. All of a sudden, magically, legislators will begin to advocate for more legitimately leftist policies. But we acknowledged how difficult influencing capitalists is for individual workers in our first episode. To review, capitalists broadly don't care about what any one employee does, as their influence is minuscule, especially in relation to the power wielded by the capitalists. But capitalists do care what all of their workers do. They care quite a bit what the entire labor force does together. Collective action, the combined might of a union, is the vehicle through which capitalists can be influenced. Boycotts, sit-ins, walkouts, strikes, these are how you strike at the heart of profits, at the interests of capitalists, and therefore at what influences the state. Capitalists in the United States have spent a substantial amount of time and considerable amounts of money to convince the population that unions are a net negative. But in actual fact, it's through collective action that almost all workers' rights have been achieved. If you like 5-day work weeks instead of 7, 8-hour workdays instead of 12, limits on child labor instead of children in every factory, minimum wage instead of being paid nothing, and any more aspects of working today that are taken as an obvious, as a given, you have labor unions to thank. Unions become established as a result of a concerted, coordinated effort to band workers together in the interest of bargaining collectively against capitalist employers. While individuals have almost no leverage against employers, contingents of workers have significant leverage. The threat of collective action acts as a counterweight against the profit-seeking wage theft of the capitalists. Normally, the employer is able to run their company like a fiefdom, choosing to hire or fire on a whim, undemocratically, despotically. But if there is union penetration among the workers in that company, the capitalist must consider the will of the workers. If a CEO threatens mass layoffs, the union can threaten mass walkouts. Not only are unions more effective at bargaining on the behalf of workers, the concessions they're able to squeeze impact all workers instead of just some. They are the most effective method of representing worker interests in the workplace and then eventually in the state. But remember that for lasting change to occur, where every worker doesn't have to be prepared to strike at all times, we need representation in the state. We need changes ratified into law. The advantages of collective action, striking, is that it can encourage legislators who may have been sympathetic to workers to suggest to their wealthy patrons that to end the strike action, the legislator should pass law in the favor of the worker, and hopefully the capitalist agrees with that. The capitalist may be in favor of this if it means their profits can be recovered, but in actuality, this rarely happens, as capitalists are acutely aware of how encouraging any win labor achieves is for workers. Capitalists need workers to believe they have no choices, no freedom, to take advantage of them in the way they'd like to. Demoralization and hopelessness is what capitalists aim for. It's why your healthcare is associated with your employment. It's so that if you are fired, you can die. So, is just having unions enough, or is there something more that can be done? There is, actually. Creating a new political party, a labor party, is how to create real, pervasive change in the state. With a Labor Party, a candidate could be put forward who is himself a worker and who is funded by the labor union dues. This would counteract two of the influences capitalists have on legislators: that the legislators themselves are capitalists, and that capitalists are those who fund the legislators. The labor unions could start paying for their own lobbyists and funding effective campaigns. Real, effective, impactful change can happen. We have a blueprint. It's been done so in many countries around the world. We know how it can be done. We just need to disseminate the information and garner the political will. That's why I make these videos, is to kind of do that. We're now in a stage of capitalism where it's obvious to almost everyone that something must be done. We don't all agree on what that should be, but there's something wrong and something has to be done about it. Everything has been infected by the capitalist system. Wealth disparities are increasing. Health outcomes are decreasing. People's job opportunities are becoming more limited. People no longer expect their government to advocate for them. And as a result of all of this, fascism is on the rise. All of this is because of how capitalism has incentivized actors to behave. How could all of this result in fascism? I can kind of hear you whispering. I guess we'll find out in the next video. That's right, I got an incentive for you to come back. I don't know, maybe subscribe. That'd be an effective method of understanding when the next video is. So thanks for watching, guys. This episode is only possible because of books like, once again, Confronting Capitalism by Vivek Chibber, The Great Risk Shift by Jacob Hacker, and those are the only two. I thought I had a third one, but those are the two for this one. I recommend picking up either, both, if you want additional information. Read up on them, comment about it. Love to hear what you have to say. Really love that Vivek Chibber one. It's very helpful for me. This episode is a part of a massive series I have planned, exploring capitalism, how it screws us, and what we can do about it. I've created a Patreon so you can more directly contribute to this project if you're interested. If not, no worries. You can do the free thing, share with all your friends and your family. They'll probably yell at you that I'm a communist Marxist spy or something, but that's fine. You know, that's like badge of honor these days. I don't know. So whatever you'd like to do, come back next week. Thanks for being here for this one. Peace out. Bye.
We should talk more about our business system. Point up the facts that it really works, and works well. Don't you think so, too?